300-pound dudes tackling you on a frozen field, the last thing you want to do is stay out there. Believe me, the Rams players were thinking about the jacuzzi at their team hotel, that they find it laughable, but more laughable if they totally disregard the trade whatsoever. This guy has transformed the balance of power in the Eastern Conference. And you could argue the entire defense is going to be absolutely ferocious next year. But if your number one priority is to win a Super Bowl, then J.J. Watt is making a grave mistake. To ride this Chad Henne experiment for an entire game, I might need a whole bottle of Hennessy just to get through that. Guy who's won 8 division titles, who's made 5 AFC championship appearances, who's reached the Super Bowl 3 times and has won 2 Super Bowls for this organization. Aaron Rodgers has only won 1 Super Bowl with Green Bay. Drew Brees has only won 1 Super Bowl with New Orleans. There's only 13 quarterbacks in NFL history that have won multiple Super Bowls, and Big Ben is one of those individuals. Good morning and welcome to Morning Joe right here on J&J Media Network, Facebook Live, Twitter, and on YouTube. I am Jonah Malcolm with you every single Monday and Wednesday morning, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 to 11 Central, and 8 to 9 a.m. Pacific. Glad you could join me. A happy Monday morning from Los Angeles. Yes, as you can imagine and expect, I am going to be talking about the Super Bowl in this show today. Obviously, this is going to be a little bit of a shorter show, but still possessing the same vitality, the same great content as always. Appreciate you joining me on this Monday morning. And so I have to start with the breaking news from Los Angeles yesterday. The Rams winning Super Bowl 56. They defeated the Cincinnati Bengals 23-20 right at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California. It's been electric and it's been lit in the city of Los Angeles for really the last 24 hours and the last 2 weeks as fans were flocking over to Los Angeles. It's been crowded, it's been busy, and it's all paid off for Los Angeles fans, for Angelinos such as myself, because the Rams are now Super Bowl champions for the first time, at least in Los Angeles, since 1951. That's correct. It's been 72 years since the Los Angeles Rams, remember its inception was as a team in Los Angeles before it moved to St. Louis. St. Louis was the last time. The St. Louis Rams were the last Rams team to actually claim a Super Bowl. That was with Kurt Warner in 2000. They beat the Tennessee Titans 23. Funny enough, they scored 23 points in that game as well, 23-16. Marshall Faulk, Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt. And that's how long it's been. But since the Los Angeles Rams have won the Super Bowl, it's been 72 years. It is a magical feeling right now in Los Angeles. It's a special moment for all Los Angeles fans, for sports fans to see this. And I think that this was one of the most electrifying Super Bowls we've seen in quite some time, because the fact that it was taking place at SoFi Stadium in Hollywood, it truly embodied that entertainment capital, that star-studded affair that we were all expecting and that we were all perhaps hoping for once it was determined that SoFi was going to be hosting the Super Bowl 56 this year. The stars were in attendance. You had Jay-Z, you had J-Lo, Ben Affleck, LeBron, Matt Damon, so many athletes across the board that were in attendance. Then Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was doing the player intros and the team intros on the field. I think he was trying to replace Michael Buffer. I don't know if Michael Buffer is low-key in his room kind of sulking and kind of snarking at Dwayne Johnson for trying to perhaps take his patented kind of job in essence. But regardless, all the stars were out. It was truly emblematic of what Hollywood is, of what going all out and above and beyond is. And they absolutely nailed it from that perspective. And I just think it was one of those few Super Bowls where you're watching both of these two teams and there aren't very many antagonists. From a narrative perspective, there aren't too many players that you truly have disdain for. I think that everyone universally really respected Matthew Stafford. I think that players and media and fans really appreciate Matthew Stafford and were genuinely happy and elated for him that after 12 years of misery in Detroit, he's able to come to a better location in his mind and deliver his family, deliver the Rams a title. I think that people were ecstatic about the narrative surrounding Joe Burrow and the road that it took for the Cincinnati Bengals to reach the Super Bowl. So I think that there were a lot of very likable players, likable characters in this Super Bowl. And so often it is that narrative that ends up drawing interest, that ends up generating buzz. And I think this was one of those few matchups where there weren't going to be very many bad outcomes. I think that this was a win-win for sports fans. I think this was a win-win for NFL fans. And when it actually comes to the game, the start of the game couldn't have gone any better for the Rams. They started out really, really well. Matthew Stafford was on fire. He was cooking, finding Kupp, finding OBJ early. OBJ was fantastic. He was on pace to perhaps have an incredible Super Bowl. He had 2 catches for 52 yards, a touchdown. It was truly heartbreaking and devastating to see him go down with that non-contact knee injury. There are reports coming out of the Rams this morning that they fear it might be an ACL injury, which was the same ACL injury that he sustained on that knee that he tore just a couple years ago. So that was really just really dampened and kind of soured what otherwise was a tremendous night of football. Prayers up to OBJ. I hope that he gets better and recovers soon from whatever that was. But the reality is, for the first quarter and a half, the Rams were the dominant team. They led 13-3. And from that point on, from OBJ's injury on, there just seemed to be a swell of momentum that shifted in the direction of the Bengals. And they capitalized. They exploited that. And that's what ultimately led to the offense stalling. I thought that OBJ's presence really freed up the Rams, allowed them to call a lot more plays. It made Matthew Stafford a lot more comfortable having 2 legit wideouts to target. And once OBJ went down, the Bengals could zero in on Cooper Kupp. The run game wasn't establishing anything. To the Bengals' defensive credit, they were stout defensively. They were getting pressure on Matthew Stafford. And the Bengals went on a 17-0 run from that point on. From 13-3, when OBJ goes down, they go on a 17-0 run. And the outcome or the outlook just seemed very bleak and very dire for the Rams. And unfortunately, it was appearing like this was going to be an ill-fated game for the Rams, because this game, this entire season, this entire postseason, the Rams have just always seemed destined to come up short. And this is coming from someone who's been rooting for the LA Rams this entire postseason, and since they've always been a part of the city of Los Angeles. When you look at their road outside of the Arizona Cardinals game and the wild card game at Tampa Bay, they're up 27-3. They nearly blow that game. Against the 49ers, they're down by 10 in the fourth quarter. Matthew Stafford throws a ball that probably should be picked, and fortunately it's dropped by a kid named Tart. And now against the Bengals, their offense was stalled. It was sputtering. They seemed to be out of sync. They couldn't establish anything on the run game. And yet, what the Rams showed, like they have been showing all season, is an immense amount of resilience, of perseverance, of an unwillingness to concede anything, to acquiesce, and to just fold over. They're playing with no Robert Woods, no Tyler Higbee. Now OBJ goes down. You can't establish the run game. They had like 23 carries for 43 yards. It was going nowhere. And The first play of the second half is a 75-yard touchdown bomb from Burrow to T. Higgins. No offensive pass interference called on the face mask grab on Jalen Ramsey. And then on the very next possession for the Rams on the first play, it's a little slant over the middle, and Matthew Stafford throws it a little bit behind Skoranek, but he still can't make the grab. And he bobbles the ball, and it's intercepted. And you just felt like, here we go again. This is going to be a game that the Rams are going to end up dreading, and they're going to lose this Super Bowl. And yet they found a way to dig deep. The defense stepped up in a huge way, and they just started wreaking havoc all over the field. Aaron Donald became a menace. Von Miller returned back to his Super Bowl MVP days with the Denver Broncos. And it was just their refusal to let this game slip away. And that's what ultimately changed, because the Bengals had that big lead. They're up 17. They're up 7, 20-13. And again, you just sense the fact that, especially after that pick from Matthew Stafford, that ability of the Rams defense to hold them to a field goal was absolutely critical. Because at that juncture in the game, everything had shifted in Cincinnati's way. Everything. And so the other thing that I think is important to note is the defense bought Matthew Stafford and the offense so many more extra possessions to just continue to chip away and find opportunities to get into the back of the end zone. And at the end of the day, when the rubber needed to meet the road, and Aaron Donald, Von Miller, Johnson, Ashawn Robinson, all these guys were making plays and giving the offense opportunities, the Rams turned to their two best guys. The two guys that have carried them on the offensive side of the ball all season, Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp. They're two best offensive players. They rode each other. Stafford rode Cooper Kupp that entire critical last game-winning drive. And that, in a nutshell, explains who those two guys have been. They've been the best 1-2 duo in the league all year. To show the type of trust on 4th and 1, to go with an end around to Cooper Kupp at your own 30. And McVay hadn't had much success running the football at all. He picks up a first down. Then Stafford hits Kupp for 4 receptions over that drive, multiple first downs. In fact, he actually scores a touchdown pass, gets popped in the back of the end zone. It's called off, and it's nullified because of offensive holding. You have to redo it. He's able to draw three either penalties or PI calls against the Bengals on that game-winning drive. Then you go with a 1-yard fade to him in the end zone, which is something you hadn't done all season, and he converts for you. He makes the catch. He wins that one-on-one battle against Eli Apple. It's just the connection and the trust that those two guys have built throughout the course of the season. It came to fruition, and it showed out in a big way, and it became crystal clear the type of impact that those two guys had all season. And that was just a very small microcosm. That one drive was a microcosm of, again, the relationship that those two have cultivated throughout the entire season. And you complement that, again, with the defense just neutralizing the Bengals offensively over their last 5 possessions, the Cincinnati Bengals. It's 4 straight punts and then a turnover on downs. And I think that Aaron Donald, again, left his imprint. He made his mark. He put his stamp on this game, and I think it was just kind of poetic justice that he was the one to, in essence, cinch up this game for the Rams, applying all kinds of pressure. He nearly sacked Joe Burrow on that final play, obviously wrapped him up and nearly brought him down. And for a guy in Aaron Donald who has floated the idea of retirement, Still young, just at the age of 30. Obviously, I hope that he doesn't retire. But if he does decide to call it a career, what a career it would have been. 8 years in the NFL. He's been a Pro Bowler all 8 times, 7 consecutive first team All Pro selections, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year award, which is tied for the most, and now a Super Bowl champion. It's just a legendary career. A legendary career if he decides to call it a quit. Obviously, we hope that he doesn't, just because as NFL fans of the talent that he is. But I think once again, what we saw shine the brightest and peer through was the theme of aggressiveness, the theme of boldness paying off, paying dividends. The teams that show the most ambition and the most kind of pluckiness, they get rewarded. And that's what we had seen the Rams do over the last several years. This didn't just happen overnight. They made substantial trades. They mortgaged their future. They sacrificed draft picks over the next 4 or 5 years to trade for Jalen Ramsey, to trade away Jared Goff for Matthew Stafford, to acquire OBJ, to trade for Von Miller. They showed a daringness, a boldness, again, a pluckiness to go all in, in the hopes of capturing that elusive Super Bowl. And they finally did it. And the fact that this organization showed that aggressiveness, again, there was so much pressure on this organization being applied not only by pundits, but by Stan Kroenke, the owner, on Sean McVay, on Les Snead, on the players to execute and to perform. And the fact that they were able to withstand that type of pressure and to harness it, to channel it, and actually deliver, it's an incredible feeling. It's an incredible feeling. I'm happy for the organization. It's extra special that they got to win it at SoFi, the second consecutive team in NFL history to win the Super Bowl in their home stadium. It had never been done before prior to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last year. Now you follow it up this year to win in Los Angeles at SoFi Stadium. It's spectacular, and it's a perfect ending to a Hollywood story for the Rams to win. It truly is. And I think that it's also only fitting that the Rams, en route to winning their Super Bowl, had to go through Tom Brady, had to retire the best man, retire the GOAT en route to winning. It's only fitting that was needed, that you'd have to knock out Tom Brady to win a Super Bowl. And it's just a huge congratulations to that franchise, huge congratulations to the Rams on an incredible season and an incredible Super Bowl. It was just a fantastic game, an entertaining game from start to finish. And I know that a lot of attention has been given to the actual game, but I really want to talk about the halftime show, because to me, as much as the game was highly anticipated, I think that for a lot of people, what was equally just as highly anticipated was the halftime show presentation that featured just a star-studded, heavy hitters, heavyweights in the music industry. You had the Los Angeles music legends. You had rapping legends with Dr. Dre out of Compton and Snoop Dogg, who is from Long Beach. And you had Eminem, who we hadn't seen in a long time. You had Kendrick Lamar. You had Mary J. Blige. And 50 Cent made a cameo as well. And I think that it was just kind of just as electrifying, that halftime show, as the actual environment, as the actual atmosphere was at SoFi in Los Angeles, just for the game. Because the scene of how they put it all together was fantastic. I think it was one of the best overall when you look at the quality of the performances, of the performers, of the camera execution, of the production standpoint. I think it was one of the best Super Bowls that we've seen in recent years. I think that it's up there with Katy Perry's in 2015. I thought that J-Lo and Shakira in 2020 was a really good halftime show. I thought that Madonna in 2012 was very good. When Aerosmith performed, I think it was 2000 and either 2 or 2006. I'm blanking on the year that Aerosmith performed. That was a very good halftime performance. We saw Bruce Springsteen has done it. The Rolling Stones, the Rolling Stones performed at halftime. But there was something about this West Coast tour for Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and Eminem and Lamar and Mary J. Blige and 50 Cent that was just enthralling to watch. And I think that it was not only an incredible throwback to those LA legends, and again, I think it was only fitting that those guys would be featured at this Super Bowl. But you're talking about A-list rappers and performers who really bridged the gap between hip hop, R&B, and the rap game, and made it a much more culturally acceptable thing. They kind of made hip hop, rap, R&B mainstream. And I think that that's why it's so compelling, this specific cast of characters at the halftime show, because you have Dr. Dre, who obviously rose to fame when he was with the NWA, and that was with Ice Cube and G-Eazy in the late 1980s and the early 1990s. That was when he kind of rose to prominence. You had Snoop Dogg, who was starting to take center stage in the mid 1990s as well. So those two guys were getting it going during that time period. Eminem in the early 2000s, Ice Cube in the early 2000s, Mary J. Blige in the mid 1990s. So this was the culmination of some of the most legendary artists that really revolutionized the music industry. Again, these weren't just kind of prolific stars in their own right. This wasn't just simply trying to pluck the biggest name in the music industry. No, these were revolutionary artists during their time period. And in a lot of ways, they were connected to one another in so many ways. You have the fact that still the DRE is one of the best. Still, DRE is one of the best songs that's come out. That features Dr. Dre, Snoop, Eminem. These guys were so many of them were a part of one another's success, especially their early career success. You had 50 Cent, who one of his best songs, Many Men, now that was produced by Eminem. People forget that Eminem's produced songs. They've been on the covers of one another's songs for years. We just haven't seen them because it's almost like they've been stored in some like deep, treasure chest of music artists that just kind of got reemerged, that we brought back to the forefront, that we haven't seen in such a long time. It's almost like the game Jumanji. You stuff it away for years and years, then all of a sudden you bring it back and it comes to life again. And I just think that you think about Snoop Dogg and how he just drips with LA swag. The guy's got great rhythm, great flow. Dr. Dre is still dominant. All of these artists still command a room. Eminem with his moving music, how much his music motivates and inspires. Kendrick Lamar, I think, is a rapping genius. I just think that from a lyricist and from a guy who can access intelligent and compelling points and express it beautifully in music and in specifically rapping, it's second to none. He's a savant at what he does. And I think that Mary J. Blige really changed the game when it comes to soul and R&B music, especially with female singers. And she was, again, very prominent in the mid 1990s. And you combine all of these incredible musicians together, and you put them and you showcase them at the forefront. The fact that you also brought, again, 50 Cent making his little cameo appearance as well. I just thought that all of them were extremely, extremely well prepared. I thought that they executed at an extremely high level. They delivered. And oftentimes people get so enamored simply with the performers, and we forget the fact that they're not just performing for the fans at the venue. This isn't just for the fans at SoFi Stadium. This is about executing a halftime show that is going to be intriguing, that is going to be captivating for millions and millions of people watching at home and in the United States, across the world. And I thought that from the production standpoint, I thought that it was aesthetically really, really appealing, really pleasing to the eye. I thought that from the camera angles, the lighting, the choreography, to the outfits, everything was on point. I thought it was executed at an extremely high level. I thought it was really, really appealing. I thought it was captivating in many ways. It really hit on and resonated with everyone, I think, in a lot of ways, from every single kind of background that you come from. And I just think that from that execution standpoint, it was one of the best that I've seen. And it was only fitting that they would go all out in that halftime show. There's no other way to do it if you're doing a halftime show in Los Angeles. And it certainly lived up to that billing. It did not disappoint at all. And it was entertaining. And at the end of the day, that's what you want. You want great performers. You want them to perform at their best on the biggest stages. And it doesn't really get much bigger than that. And they executed, and it was fantastic, fantastic to watch. Final topic, my Malkins moments. Again, I apologize. I know I'm ending a little bit earlier today, but I have some great Malkins moments. The majority of them, yes, the Super Bowl provided a lot of historic moments that I'm going to touch on, but also in the United States at the Winter Olympic Games, Kaillie Humphries, I'm going to touch on her in just a moment, but I do want to start with the Rams. Have to give them a huge shout out. Congratulations to the Los Angeles Rams winning Super Bowl 56, defeating the Cincinnati Bengals again. They captured their first Super Bowl in Los Angeles since 1951. That's 71 years. 7-1. It's absolutely fantastic. Again, you got to go back to the St. Louis Ram days when Kurt Warner won it in 2000, again with Torrey Holt and Isaac Bruce, Marshall Faulk, that crew against the Tennessee Titans. In fact, that was the defense made a tackle on the 1 yard line on Tennessee's last game-winning or final drive of the game to hold on in 2000. That was the first non-Los Angeles Rams win in the Super Bowl, but this is the first Rams Super Bowl in the Super Bowl era in Los Angeles. So this was an historical moment for them. Have to give them a tremendous amount of credit and a big shout out to them. Shout out to Cooper Kupp, who became the Super Bowl MVP. It culminates what's been an exceptional and outstanding and spectacular season from an individual standpoint. The guy was absolutely phenomenal. He had 2 catches, 92 yards, and 2 touchdowns, including the game-winning touchdown in the win over the Bengals 23-20 yesterday in the Super Bowl. He had the most receptions, 178 receptions, most receiving yards, 2,425, and the most touchdowns, receiving touchdowns, 22 of any player this year. He won the NFL's Triple Crown. He was the NFL's Offensive Player of the Year. He had the most receptions in a single postseason ever in NFL history with 33. He was a unanimous All-Pro wide receiver. Again, he led the league in receptions, receiving yards, touchdowns. He was a Super Bowl MVP. He became the 8th wide receiver to win the Super Bowl MVP in the first since Julian Edelman did it, unfortunately, at the behest of the Rams. They beat the Rams in 2018. That was the last time Los Angeles had advanced to the Super Bowl. So that was the last time that a wide receiver won the Super Bowl MVP. According to Elias Sports Bureau research, Cooper Kupp is the second player all time with 4+ receptions in a go-ahead drive to win the game in a Super Bowl. in a drive in the fourth quarter later of a Super Bowl. He joins Pittsburgh's Santonio Holmes, who did it in the 18th Super Bowl, Super Bowl 18. In fact, he became only the second player, Cooper Kupp, to win not only the NFL's receiving triple crown, but also the NFL Offensive Player of the Year and the Super Bowl MVP since Jerry Rice did it. Jerry Rice did it, I believe, in 1994. Here's the difference. Jerry Rice accomplished all of that over the course of his career. Cooper Kupp did it in one season. Yes, you heard that right. The most gifted, the most decorated wide receiver in NFL history, Jerry Rice, accumulated all of those achievements over the course of his career. Cooper Kupp achieved this in about a 4-month time span. It was absolutely sensational. He set a record for not only, again, receptions in the postseason, but tied for the second most receiving yards and receiving touchdowns in the postseason in NFL history. He caught a touchdown in each of the Rams' 4 playoff games. We haven't seen that since Larry Fitzgerald did that for the Arizona Cardinals. He's just the second player to do that in a single postseason. He joined also the San Francisco 49ers quarterback Joe Montana as the only players to win Offensive Player of the Year and Super Bowl MVP in the same season. And he became the first player to lead the league in receiving yards and win a Super Bowl since Jerry Rice did this in 1994. Again, this is a guy who was drafted in the 3rd round out of Eastern Washington 5 years ago. And it was extremely heartwarming, I think, to see a guy in Cooper Kupp who's extremely modest, extremely humble. He kind of represents this blue collar mentality. He goes to work, he just grabs his pail and he goes to work, and he stays true to himself. He's not into being kind of excessive in showboating. And this is a guy who tore his ACL the last time the Rams reached the Super Bowl, didn't get a chance to participate. He's been overlooked, overvalued over the course of his entire career, and he doesn't care. And he doesn't kind of desire and yearn for the spotlight or for all the attention. Even in his post-game interviews, the guy was still pretty stoic, barely giving off a smile. And I think that's just because of the appreciation that he has for playing the game that he loves, for playing the game at a high level, for being appreciative of the situation that he's in. And that's what makes him arguably the first or second best wide receiver in the NFL right now, is because of that mentality, is because of his ability to lock in so well and to be able to execute through double, through triple teams. And his route running just gets open, just is so deft and has a knack for getting open, unlike many that we've seen before. And for this season to culminate with this Super Bowl MVP for him, it just speaks to his professionalism. It speaks to his greatness as a talent. And I'm just so happy for him and the journey that he's gone on. Again, tearing his ACL and coming back with a vengeance. Not losing a beat. In fact, just elevating his game from that point on. It was a special year for him, and a big shout out to Cooper Kupp. Congratulations to him. Congratulations to Van Jefferson, another wide receiver for the Rams, who not only won a Super Bowl tonight, but his wife gave birth to his second child. So he had to leave the post-game celebrations early to drive over, to hurry on over to the hospital and be with his wife, to be with his child. Again, another touching moment. There was a picture that was posted literally an hour after the game had concluded, where he's in the hospital bed holding his second newborn, and that's just a really fantastic image, a fantastic moment for him. Just really kind of uplifting, and I think just kind of lights people up inside. So big shout out to him. Shout out to Taylor Rapp, one of the DBs for the Rams. He got 2 rings last night, not only a Super Bowl ring, but he also proposed to his girlfriend on SoFi, on the field at SoFi Stadium. She said yes. So that was a moving moment for him. Congratulations to Sean McVay becoming the youngest NFL head coach to win a Super Bowl ever. 36 years, 20 days is Sean McVay. That's how old he is, or how young he is, rather. He became the youngest NFL quarterback coach. I keep been talking about quarterbacks a lot. The youngest NFL coach to win a Super Bowl as a head coach. So big shout out to him. And then finally, I didn't talk about this too much, but did want to shift and give a shout out to Kaillie Humphries and Ilana Myers Taylor for capturing gold and silver at the women's monobob at the Winter Olympics at Beijing. It is one of the most fascinating events, I think, at the Olympics, because there's so much that I think is out of your control, or at least you're led on to believe is out of the athlete's control. Once you get in that bobsled, it's so hard to maneuver and to control and to navigate in those little kind of alpines on the alpine slides. It just there's so much unknown when you're in that bobsled, and the fact that you're doing it by yourself for Humphries to win it in pretty dominant fashion as well. I mean, she really, it really wasn't much of a competition for her, but nonetheless, the duo became the first pair of women to win a bobsled medal at 4 straight Olympics. Humphries is now a 3-time Olympic medalist and a 5-time world champion. And the thing that people don't know with Kaillie Humphries that I think is worth noting is there was a lot of controversy surrounding what her nationality was. This is someone who's competed the last 3 Olympics for Canada on the bobsledding team for Canada, and because of a kind of visa controversy, she was able to collect a visa to enable her to be a U.S. citizen. She competed for the United States, and with all that in the backdrop, you still managed to just zone in, lock in, and win that competition. It's incredible. It's incredible. Again, she won it. She participated with Canada at the Vancouver, Sochi, and the Pyeongchang Olympics. 2 golds, 1 bronze medal in those 2 women bobsled events. Again, this is like the first time that the monobob event has been a legitimate event at the Olympics. And with this gold medal, she became the first American to win a gold for 2 countries, U.S. and Canada, at the Winter Olympics. You just don't see that too often. It just doesn't get much better than that. That's all the time that I got for today. Thank you so much for joining me right here on Morning Joe every single Monday and Wednesday morning, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 to 11 Central, and 8 to 9 a.m. Pacific. Mondays and Wednesday mornings right here on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook Live. Follow me and subscribe to my YouTube page, Morning Joe, J-O, with Jonah Malkin. On Twitter, Jonah Malkin, or at morning_Joe_ Instagram, JMalk97, TikTok, Jonah Malkin. As always, enjoy the rest of your morning, and congratulations once again to the LA Rams on becoming Super Bowl 56 champions. Good morning.